Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. You want to talk about a case of narcissism? Get ready to throw up a little bit in your mouth, because we're rewinding the tape to chat about the sick, sad life of Sherri Papini. Last year, I made a couple of videos about this case. I was specifically interested in how Sherri was being released from prison after completely destroying the lives of her husband and children. And I was fascinated by how quickly she had obtained a new boyfriend. I found a ton of information online about it, and I was just in awe of how quickly this woman moved on from all the horrible destruction she was leaving behind. We're going to talk about her boyfriend, her boob job, the financially and emotionally devastated family she left behind, and how her husband is finally speaking out. But first, here's a super quick rundown of the case, and you can find my extended videos linked below for additional play-by-play information.
The disgraced supermom who faked her own kidnapping is now writing a children's book.
I love you.
The revelation comes as HULU is set to air a documentary about her notorious hoax, Perfect Wife, the mysterious disappearance of Sherri Papini.
HULU just released a reenactment of the curious case of Sherri Papini, reviewing how this seemingly perfect wife and mother disappeared in the middle of a beautiful day while out on her daily jog, only to show up weeks later, close to Thanksgiving, burnt, beaten, and terrified.
Heyo.
Heyo. I'll kiss for the camera with sunflower seeds.
Are you chained up?
She was battered and branded and claimed she'd been snatched by two Hispanic women.
Sherri Papini stuck to her fake abduction story for years. She drained her community police and FBI resources, received financial and emotional support from local victims' charities, and made her husband and children live in a home shrouded in suspicion, constantly on alert, needing to support Sherri through her many PTSD episodes.
Until finally being arrested for making the whole thing up. Sherri's ex-husband, Keith, is now speaking out to GMA for the first time since her arrest.
But it turned out Sherri plotted and planned the whole thing with an ex-boyfriend, James Reyes, who believed Sherri was running away from an abusive husband. He kept her safe and hidden for weeks, and when she left, she barely even said thank you. Years later, when police confronted Sherri with the evidence of her crimes, she refused to admit what she'd done. She depended on her family for legal funds and a place to stay while awaiting trial. She moaned and complained and continued to be the everlasting victim, while her husband and two small children dealt with the utter horror and shock of realizing that their mother lied to them about something so extreme for years of their young lives. Last year, when Sherri was released from her halfway house, I was shocked to watch her walk out with her head held high and seemingly some work done. I knew Keith was left financially devastated and working towards the resolution of a divorce, so I looked into where and how Sherri had the money to afford whatever she was up to, and that's when I uncovered a lot of information about Sherri's new boyfriend. I've been talking about it. Sherri Papini got released from a halfway house like a couple of weeks ago, and she walked out of that halfway house like somebody who had somewhere to go and someone to be with. It was especially obvious in her chest area, allegedly what I was seeing with my own two eyes looked like two new appliances right here. Okay, just my opinion. A lot of other people on Reddit were saying it looked like she had some other work done. Maybe her teeth had gotten redone or fixed or veneers. People were going on and on about what was going on with the way that she looked. But I think it was quite obvious that something had been done in some way, shape, or form, some augmentation. It was really right in your face. But the point is, people were like, where would she get money to be doing something like that? With all she's been up to, the fact that she divorced her husband, he's got no money. They've been through the ringer. They owe all this money back. She owes money here, there, everywhere. And the fact that she's just a huge bitch, where did she get all this money from to do this kind of stuff? Until Eventually, some saviors showed up with the goods, with the information, letting the rest of us know that Sherri Papini has a new man. Of course. Okay, so allegedly Sherri Papini's new man, he lives in Orlando, California, and she's going down there and living with him because she doesn't have anyone else to live with. This is alleged. The guy, I don't want to give out all of his information because, heaven forbid people go find him and harass him about it. But supposedly he owns a car dealership, of course, in Orlando, probably gave her a car and that's how she's getting around, even though she's demanding money back from her ex-husband. Okay. But what has happened is that allegedly the family of this man is coming forward and they are speaking out and being like, we're really concerned about him. They are saying like, look, just like some of her prior boyfriends, he's not the sharpest tack, in the drawer. And he could be easily manipulated, especially because his wife died like a while ago and he's raising some sons on his own. Okay. The sons are older now, like almost teenagers or around teenage age. And a lot of people were speaking out on Reddit about this and being like, oh dear God, no. Because I had no idea. I had to go back and take a look at it. It is alleged that Sherri Papini was really inappropriate with a young guy, a 15-year-old guy. She was sexually inappropriate with him when she was in her 20s, okay? There wasn't like a huge age difference, but enough where you're like, what's up with that, right? And Sherri just seems like the kind of person who would be inappropriate with anyone at any time. I reported this back in November, and since then, so much of this has been confirmed. Yes, Sherri Papini did move in with a wealthy boyfriend who is taking care of her. She's living in a $700,000 mansion. His family is very concerned. Now people are asking questions about how his ex-wife died shortly before he got with Sherri. There's just so much intrigue going on with this situation. It's quite unbelievable, but it is especially unbelievable because Sherri is still asking for more money from her ex-husband, Keith Papini. And Keith is actually finally speaking out after years of silence. He continues to state that he had nothing to do with Sherri's plot. He knew nothing about it. He said that he could never have anticipated that Sherri would create such a plan.
Heyo.
Heyo. She made us all believe that her story was true. Every single day she committed to the lie.
I personally remember watching this interview with Keith and law enforcement where Keith talked about how Sherri would go over to like a family function at his family's home, at Keith's family's home, with the children and Keith, and they would find her like in a puddle on the floor crying and screaming in the bathroom. They would all have to comfort her, support her, and take her home. And later she would tell Keith that she freaked out because the tile in the bathroom looked exactly like the tile of her captives, and it brought her back into that moment, and she was dealing with PTSD. Can you imagine being a child in that situation where anywhere you go, even within the safety of your own family, you have to be scared that your mother's going to completely freak out. You don't know what's going on. The harm that Sherri Papini did to her family, specifically her children, is just unconscionable.
The hoax didn't just last the 22 days that she had disappeared. It lasted for years, 6 years.
And every single day. And that's what people don't realize. It was every single day.
In one of my former videos, I talk about how Keith and Sherri received something like $60,000 of financial aid through some kind of victims advocacy charity in their area, and how they were able to use some of that to like fortify their windows and doors in their home, provide like extra security cameras. They were basically living in a fortress because Sherri was telling them like, these people are going to come back. They did this horrible thing to me. I'm living in fear every day. And that was part of what they had to be convicted. Sherri had to be convicted for, was taking all of this victims' money, this charity money that was available to people who were really hurt.
All of that.
I wanted to get the truth out there and really wanted to let everybody know like how convincing Sherri was all those years and how I believed everything that she was telling me.
Honestly, I think it would be impossible for someone who was really close to Sherri and loved her to not believe her. I mean, she was burned. She had burns imprinted onto her body. And she was willing to hold up this illusion for years, even with her children. Even in the presence of her children, she was willing to break down and have a fit. I think when you see someone reacting in that kind of way, it's very difficult for you to doubt what they're telling you to be the truth.
Telling other people that you were abusive. She told friends that you'd kill her if she ever left you. Are those allegations true?
Oh, of course not. Those allegations hurt, they're painful.
Did you ever physically or mentally abuse her?
Never.
Keith continues to deny that he was ever abusive to Sherri. Sherri was a stay-at-home mom. He provided for them financially, and she was telling everyone that he was abusing her, that he had some kind of a relationship with the local police department, and that's why she couldn't get away. And Keith says that none of that is true. And of course, we've reached an impasse where we can't believe anything that Sherri says.
But now he says even then there was doubt. When you first encountered her in the hospital, what was your first instinct?
When I pulled back the curtain and I saw her and I saw the look in her eyes, I felt in that moment that she was lying. And it wasn't until when I really got close and I could just see the amount of injuries, bruises, burns to her body. And it was a shock to me. And I remember thinking how horrible of me to even think that she could have done this to herself.
Keith does admit in this new interview there was a moment when she first came back on Thanksgiving Day and he approached her in the hospital when he thought to himself, she's not telling the truth. But then once he saw all of her injuries, he actually felt like a jackass for not believing her immediately, and that carried forward with him for the next couple of years. The sickest part about this new interview is that Keith admits Sherri has never said she's sorry to Keith or her children.
She apologized in court, but has Sherri ever apologized to you or the children?
No, never. She has no remorse that I have ever witnessed or seen.
Absolutely insane to think what this woman was able to get away with for decades, because long before she committed this hoax, we've been told that a lot of absolutely unbelievable things were happening in Sherri's life. She's been playing these games for a long time. She's gotten away with it time and time again. I'm grateful that this time she was caught, and it's a shame that so many resources had to be used in order to uncover the lies of Sherri Papini. We'll be reviewing the documentary here on this channel, and I hope to set up a Discord in which we can watch it together. I hope you'll join me again soon when we head down another rabbit hole.